right, we are live. Good evening, everyone, and happy Monday. Happy week 3 of the quarantine. I hope everyone is still safe and not too bored. Thank you so much for joining me during this webinar. My name is Pearl, and I am from the Milano Montenegro School. And I am originally from Florida in the United States, so I'm American. Please, if you're watching, say hi in the chat. I love speaking to the students, so I really enjoy talking to you guys. So let me know who's there. And if you have any questions, feel free to write a comment. There is a slight delay in the chat, so if I do not see or answer your comment immediately, it's because I haven't seen it yet. But I always do my best to try and answer your questions and acknowledge your comments when I see them. All right, so this week we started doing business focuses, and tonight I am going to do business intermediate presentations 2. So I assume a lot of the students, you guys, are working from home, or smart working, as you call it in Italy. In America, we don't actually say smart working. We say working remotely or working from home. So if you ever speak to someone in America, so smart working, which is not what you guys call here, is called working remotely or working from home in the US. Fun fact. So today we're going to do practice openings, how to open a presentation, how to start it. So maybe some of you will be doing presentations through your computer for your jobs now, especially because we're in quarantine, and we're just going to practice. And in this business activity, we're going to go over persuasive openings, making fluid transitions, and discussing sales demographics. So hopefully you guys will benefit a lot. So first, a little fun quiz. Beyond borders, look at these logos of international companies. Which ones do you know, and which industries are these companies in? So here we have 5 logos of pretty famous or famous enough companies. And if you know them, write them in the chat. If you know what the name of the company is for each logo, and what industry or field these companies work in, you can write in the chat. Just give you guys a few minutes. Some of these are a little difficult. I think one of them is more popular in America, so you may or may not know what they are, and that's fine. So I'm just gonna wait for a few minutes, a few seconds, to see if anyone knows. All right. So the first one is BP, is the name of the company. And the industry they work in is oil and gas. So in America, BP is quite a big company. They provide a lot of the gas for cars because we don't really use petrol in America. We use gas. So they provide gasoline for the cars. They do also a lot of drilling, unfortunately, in the ocean, in the sea to get their oil. So it's a pretty big brand in America. I am not sure if it is a big brand in Europe or other places in the world. The next company logo should be pretty easy. I think it's a very well-known company, and it is Nike, and they work in clothing, which include shoes and sports equipment as well. It's pronounced Nike in America. I know it's pronounced, I think, differently in the UK. I believe it's pronounced Nike. or maybe the same in Italian. I'm not sure. But in America, we call it Nike. So if you go to America and you like Nikes, you want Nike shoes. The third one, I'm sure everyone knows. This is a worldwide brand. It's very popular here in Italy as well as in the States. And it's Amazon. And the industry they work in is e-commerce. So they work primarily on the internet, on the web. They conduct a lot of their business through the internet. The next one was a little difficult for me because I'm not a big fan of this industry, or I don't really care for it. So unless you are into cars, which is what this logo is, I believe. Yep, Aston Martin. And obviously they work in the industry of automobiles. So fun fact, I didn't know. I don't know if Aston Martin, I think it's a British brand. I am not sure. I could be wrong. And then last but not least, I think most of you will know as well, if you travel especially, it is Hilton, and they work in hospitality. If any of you have stayed in Hilton hotels, I'm sure they're very nice hotels. They're not terrible, but they're okay. But yeah, these companies are very well known, especially Amazon and Nike. I think almost every continent except for Antarctica probably knows about Nike or Amazon. They're very successful international companies. So let's go over some questions. Number one, why do you think these companies decided to expand internationally? What are the benefits to worldwide companies? Are there any negatives? And how might their approach differ when considering the following elements: competition, marketing, and sales? So let's start with the first question. Why do you think these companies decided to expand internationally? I think the number one reason would be for financial gain, to earn more money, to earn more profit, a higher profit, to get more recognition, I believe. Um, what are I don't know any other reasons why a company would want to expand internationally besides to the main reason is to make more money and to get their products in more consumers' hands. What are the benefits to worldwide companies? Are there any negatives? What are the benefits to worldwide companies? Well, I think as a person who has moved abroad from my home country, it is very nice to recognize companies or brands that I recognize from home. So I think it's great because I can expect the same level of service or the same type of product, knowing it's from the same company that I am used to back at home. Um, Another benefit for the company, I think it's just money. For the consumers, availability to, their products are available. But even though sometimes, depending on the country, not every product that's available in one country is available in another country. I have noticed that maybe for some shoes, for Nike or clothing, or especially with Amazon products, there are some things that are not easily found in Europe as they are in America due to maybe regulations or maybe smaller companies selling on Amazon in America and they don't have the financial support to go overseas. So it depends, I guess. Are there any negatives? Well, having worked in a company that wanted to expand internationally, one of the things, especially because I worked in the supply management departments, one of the things we had to consider when trying to expand internationally was the rules and regulations of each individual country, as well as, in particular in Europe, the union. So not only did we have to consider um, each individual country's laws and regulations. We also had to consider the European Union's laws and regulations as well. So there was a lot of legal processes to be done. Um, any other negatives? Other negative, the cost, of course, of expanding abroad. It's a risk, especially if you aren't prepared, because you need to do a lot of market research because the market in Europe is not necessarily the same in America or Asia or Africa or Australia. So a lot of preparation needs to be done. So you need a lot of financial support. Any other negatives? I think the top one is cost. I'm sure there is more, but I cannot remember. If you know any negatives of expanding internationally, please write it in the chat. How might their approach differ when considering the following elements? Huh, competition, marketing, and sales. Okay, well, I mentioned marketing before. So when entering a new market or a new country, you have to consider the market and how your competitors are doing and how the trends are for your particular product. Maybe your product is really popular in America and it's really trendy, but maybe it hasn't become popular in another country yet. So it might be a little bit too risky to launch a product too soon. Or maybe it's great because you're ahead of the curve. I don't know. Marketing and sales, also you have to consider demographic, what people's interests are, what kind of marketing to use, because I know that in America, some images or some commercials or ads are a little bit more conservative compared to the ads placed in America and in Europe. For example, I noticed that when people buy cigarettes or tobacco here, they have very graphic images on the boxes or the packets, and that kind of advertising or marketing or whatever you call it is not would not be acceptable in America. So obviously knowing the kind of people you're dealing with would be really important when considering stuff like that. Competition, of course, before you enter any market, you should know who your top competitors are. Usually, if you're a big international company, your competitors might be the same as they are back at home in your home country, or they might be different. And there could be additional competitors because maybe there are some competitors that are really popular in just this one country you want to enter. So it's great to do research and see what they're doing and how their sales are doing and maybe look at how they're selling their products. It's great. Let's continue. All right, developing markets. Luzzi Motors is an Italian automotive company. Match the following expressions to reflect their state in the market. So for the letters, we have maintain customers through the roof, recently expanded, competition, room for improvement, and worldwide. And number one, we have Luzzi has lost sales in the SUV market because of new automobile companies. Spring promotion, free leather seats for returning customers. We have opened new offices in South America. Luzzi has become a popular brand in 5 different continents. Sales in Scandinavia were very weak in the last quarter, and consumer interest has increased 200% in Western Europe in the last 3 years. Well, that sounds amazing. So for each number, I want you to choose a letter, A, B, C, D, E, or F. I want you to choose a letter for each number that you think represents it. So for maintain customers, which number do you think best represents that sentence? So in the chat, match the letters to the numbers, and then we'll review together. I don't know if in Italy you used SUVs, but SUVs are you don't have too many SUVs here in Europe. Not that I've seen, but an SUV is usually a very large car. Kind of looks like a Land Rover or a Range Rover. In America, they're more popular in America because I guess in America we just like bigger things. So in the chat, write match the letters to the numbers. Then we will go over it together. So I'll give you a few minutes to do that while I do it myself in my head. Let's see. All right, let's get started. I think anyone's on. Number one, Lucy has lost sales in the SUV market because of new automobile companies. I think we would say automotive in America. So that sentence for me represents D, competition. Lucy has lost sales in the SUV market because of new automobile companies. That's new automobile companies are in essence new competitors taking up their share in the market, so taking away from Lucy. That's competition. 2, spring promotion, free leather seats for returning customers. This one's a little easy. Returning customers. So it is A. So we want to maintain customers. So we're offering discounts or promotions for existing customers or returning customers. 3, we have opened new offices in South America. So we have opened new offices in South America. So this could be, that will only be one thing. So recently expanded, C. So expanded because we're making our company bigger, we're expanding. Recently, it's new. So recently expanded, we have opened new offices in South America. Number 4, Lucy has become a popular brand in 5 different continents. Okay. Different continents. So we're talking about the world here. And that is a big help, a big clue. So 4 is worldwide. F. Sales in Scandinavia were very weak in the last quarter. That's not a good thing. Weak is the opposite of strong. That means we can do better. If it was weak, we have to do better. So we have room for improvement. That's E. So that was a little bit difficult, but I think with process of elimination, you would have been able to figure it out. Last, consumer interest has increased 200% in Western Europe in the last 3 years. So 200%, that is amazing. So it's more than 100. So it's more than what we are able to hold. So we can say through the roof, B. So when anything, we say something is through the roof, that means it's so much. It's a very large amount. So for example, if a new film comes out and the ticket sales for that weekend are through the roof, that means they're very high. They're higher than what was expected in particular. So if something is through the roof, it's higher or better than what was expected. So for example, sometimes it's not always a good thing. So I can say, for example, the number of cases in Italy for the virus are through the roof. Is through the roof. Number of cases of the virus in Italy is through the roof. So it's more than expected. It's a lot, and it's not necessarily always a good thing. It just depends on the context in which you use this expression, but it's a good one to know. All right. Dealing with problems. We all deal with problems every day in our life, sometimes work related, sometimes personally related. So, dealing with problems, how do you deal with problems? Is there a specific method that you use? Well, everyone is different, and I think we deal with problems differently. Sometimes how we deal with our problems are really effective, and sometimes they're not. Um, is there a specific method you use? Well, how do I deal with my problems? Well, while I'm saying how I deal with my problems, in the chat, tell me how you deal with your problems and if is there any specific method that you use to deal with your problems? Maybe it's really good and I could use it for myself in the future. So for me, how do I deal with my problems? It depends. Like work problems and personal problems, I handle very differently. For work problems, I need to be more professional and more controlled in my emotions because I am working with other people and I want to maintain a professional work environment. So, usually, I deal with problems by speaking to my colleagues. Of course, I try to figure out what the problem is and try to solve it on my own or try to look at the problem from different angles. Maybe it isn't really a problem and I am making it a problem. So I try to analyze the issue first. And once I decide or understand what the problem is, I try to find solutions. And then usually when I have solutions to my problems, I go to a colleague to see if any of their advice or solutions match with my ideas. So, and if there aren't any matches, and it's great because I can hear another side or another perspective. And if some of our solutions do match, it's great because then I feel like my reasoning is understood and I can feel more confident in choosing the solution to my problem because I have support. Personal problems, it depends on the problem. Usually I need to, again, for both, I do need to take a step away from the problem and try to look at it very objectively. I'm not always successful in that, but I try my best. But for both situations, professional and personal, I try to remain calm so I can think clearly and keep a level head. Is there a specific method you use? I already told you my method. A lot of it is come up with solutions for myself first and then go to friends or colleagues to express my problem and see if their solutions are similar to the solutions that I have come up with by myself. All right. If you have any other methods for problem solving, please write it in the chat. So, Lucy Motors needs to motivate its colleagues to focus on long-term objectives and maintain its global presence. For persuasive speeches, we often use the problem solution method. What do you think the different parts of the problem solution method are? Good. So, persuasive speeches, we often use the problem solution method. So we want to persuade someone to do something. We need to, I'm assuming from the title of this method, is to present the problem and offer a solution, which is very similar to what I do on my own. So I guess I am on the right path in what I'm doing. So a problem solution speech generally consists of the following: introducing the problem, detailing the problem, and describing the solution. Oh, that one. So, describing the solution. So, in general, at work, maybe in life, this could be applicable. In life, you should, when you're telling your problem to a friend or a colleague, we need to introduce the problem. We can't just start and talking and just talk about why you're upset or why you're angry. We need to say why there is a problem, what is the problem, and then we need to detail it. So we need to give information about the problem so the people can understand every aspect of the problem, of the situation, and that way they can give you the best advice. Or it also covers you because if you present every possible detail and from different aspects, the solution you present will be better because I think there'll be less chances for people to point out maybe it's something that is wrong in your solution. So I think the more detail you provide for your problem shows that you're prepared and that your solution covers these details as well. So it kind of gives you protection, I think. Good. So when we are doing a speech that details a problem, we need to introduce the problem, of course. We need to have a reason why we're having the speech. The problem-solving speech, we need to say what the problem is. We need to give details to the problem so the listener or the people you're presenting to can have a great understanding or good understanding of the problem. So when they hear your solution, it makes sense and they can follow along and agree with what you're saying. I think this can apply to personal life as well. All right. Dealing with problems. So below are 3 scenarios of potential problems you can encounter in the workplace, and we're going to use the problem solution method to describe and solve these problems. So number 1, your workplace has many international employees, and you find that cultural differences and language barriers create problems for many of the teams. This is, I believe, a common problem for many international companies, especially, I think, in Europe, because we do have in Italy as well, because there are a lot of international companies, and sometimes there are people from many different parts of the continent that work in one company, so you are experiencing a difference in language, especially culture, and sometimes things are lost in translation, or maybe the humor between cultures is very different. So maybe if one person from a different country tells you a joke, but it sounds very offensive to you, but it's a joke in their country. So it's a lot. So we have to be very sensitive to things like this. So this is a great problem to practice. So introducing the problem. Your workplace has many international employees and you find it, okay, so what is the problem for number 1 that you think? So in the chat for number 1, tell me what you think the problem is for number 1, just to introduce the problem. We're just introducing the problem. So keep it very simple. What is the problem? Okay, so continuing. So for number 1, the problem is a difference in culture and languages, and so it creates a barrier. That's the problem. There's a barrier due to the different cultures and languages. So let's describe the problem. So some of the problems this can cause is maybe misunderstandings, meetings not being understood well, or directions not being understood well. Maybe things are crossed incorrectly, meanings what someone wants done, maybe it's not explained well. These are the type of problems that can happen. So, and we can get and this could sometimes cause maybe problems with personality. So these are type of details that we could include in a speech detailing a problem. Detailing the solution. What kind of solutions could you provide to this problem? What kind of solutions could you provide for this problem? So in the chat, write what you think would be a good way to solve this problem of the difference in cultures and language barriers that some employees might encounter. So, what are some solutions? Hmm, chat. Okay. So, a possible solution is maybe providing a seminar or workshop about the different cultures, or so people can learn more about other people's cultures, or providing language lessons, especially. I know for me, for example, moving to a new country, even in my job where I have to speak English a lot, it's still very beneficial for me to know a little bit of the Italian language, a little bit about Italian culture, or just being very open to what Italians are telling me, because maybe sometimes when things are translated to me, it can come off sounding very strange, and being very understanding of the differences really helps with the relationships that I have. And if I'm not sure about anything, I always try to express um, why I don't understand, but to express it in a very polite way, saying maybe there's misunderstanding. Could you please explain a little bit better? So I think maybe a lot of workshops or just being very open-minded. Of course, if things escalate, always going to HR always helps. Number two, you work in an open plan office and it's very noisy. You are not able to concentrate very well, and it's affecting your work and the work of your colleagues. So, an open plan office, for those of you that don't know, an open plan office in America at least, it's where there are a lot of desks in a very open space, so there aren't walls or cubicles separating people. So it's a very open environment. Sometimes it's relaxed. It seems less rigid and strict and more free flowing. So it depends on the company. I feel like more millennial companies or startups like this type of format because it gives a sense of building a connection instead of being so closed off between employees. So an open plan office is just very loud, and it's really great because it fosters open communication. I've worked in an open plan office in the past and I quite enjoyed it because it made it easy to talk to my colleagues, and it made the environment a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more friendly. Of course, we had designated spaces for meetings, but in general, I do like a very open plan office. But the problem, there are many problems with an open plan office, and one of them is that it does get very noisy. So the problem in this scenario is that it's very noisy and it's difficult to get work done, right? So that is the problem. It's just noisy and it's difficult to concentrate, to get work done, to accomplish what you need to accomplish. Describing the problem, of course, maybe you need to work on something very serious and your colleagues maybe don't have the same project and they're talking freely, brainstorming out loud, and the noise they are creating is distracting you or disturbing you from what you need to do. So it's a lot of extra details, or maybe the um, open plan office allows people to talk about many things. Sometimes they're not work related, and maybe they're a little bit more personal, which is it happens. But again, it's still a distraction. It disturbs you from completing your work. So, what solution can we provide for this type of problem? So, what type of solution can we provide for this type of problem? So in the chat, tell me your ideas to solve the problems for number two, which is it is too noisy and you can't concentrate. Yes, it's too noisy and you can't concentrate. Okay, so it's too noisy and you can't concentrate. So what solutions can we provide? Well, in my company in the past, when it got too loud, we just asked people to quiet down. That's one way. We asked people to quiet down. And we actually had a few offices, separate office, closed offices, four walls for meetings, for spaces where people needed to be in complete silence if they're doing a conference call or if they were having a meeting with potential clients. So we did have quiet spaces where people could go and work when they needed to be in silence and not be distracted by the extra noise. Another really great solution is to have a designated quiet hour. Maybe some companies, my company did this, but maybe some companies can set a limit between like 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock is quiet hour. So you can't, no open discussions in the office and it's just quiet. Everyone has to work. And if you need to communicate, you can do it through a messaging system on your computer, like Slack or something very similar, chat. It's a really great solution. But I think having designated spaces for when people need to have silence when they work is a really great idea. Next problem, you're a manager, and a lot of your team members have quit because they don't receive proper training and feel overwhelmed by the tasks they have to do. Well, that's not good. It's not good as a manager, and it's not good as the company, especially if you're their manager and they're quitting on you. It shows your skills as a manager, which we don't want. So, in this problem, what in this scenario, what is the problem? What is the problem? In the chat, tell me what the problem is. So, in the chat, tell me what the problem is. So I think the obvious problem in the last one is that people are quitting, your team members are quitting. This is the problem. And the details of this problem, well, they're quitting because they don't receive proper training. Right? I think when you start any new job, any company, you need to be trained a little bit. You need to be shown how a company works, how is there a system in place, how to work with other people. Maybe people have certain processes and certain methods. So I think when you're training or starting a new job, you need to be aware. So obviously, if you don't receive the proper training and everything you do is incorrect and you're constantly being corrected, it's very demoralizing and it makes you not want to work there. So a solution to a problem like this would obviously be to provide adequate training to your team members and making sure there is a period of time where new employees can adjust to a new role or new position, whatever. So I think there are many situations where people start a new job, and sometimes these companies are in a very difficult situation. They're very stressed, and these new workers are just thrown into these positions, and they have to learn in the moment on the job, so they don't really receive the adequate amount of training. And a lot of them is there's a lot of expectations for these new employees. Like they expect certain employees to understand how a company works and how a company functions after a few weeks or maybe a month. But usually that is not necessarily the case. And as a result, these new team members don't feel supported and they don't really respect or like working for the company and end up leaving. So I think a really obvious solution to this problem is to provide a good training process, to have a good schedule, outline the training procedures, showing them an outline, like the first week, this is what you're doing, the second week, this is what we're going to do, and then have and obviously check on your new employees as they're going through the training process to make sure they are adjusting well and there aren't any issues. If there are issues, training is the best time to fix these problems before they actually really start to get very involved with their new position. So adequate training and time. Make sure you're giving new employees time to adjust to their new role, I think is also very important. Great job, guys. All right, looking forward, looking to the future. Read this speech from one of Lutzi's employees that follows the problem solution method. So this is an example of a speech that someone is giving. They're presenting a problem and a solution. So, Lois Stern, before I finish this introduction to the speech, Lutzi will sell 5 cars. Its global presence has seen brilliant results, but the problem remains. As competition grows, the company needs to focus on maintaining customers and moving into new markets. With that being said, Lutzi has recently expanded into 2 new continents and 13 new countries and is now a force in the automotive industry. Sales are through the roof in Western Europe, but with difficult competition in Germany and Scandinavia. But with difficult competition in Germany and Scandinavia, the market has room for improvement. While this may be true, just a few brands have a great influence on these regions. Most companies produce the same lines worldwide, but not every market wants the same thing. The companies with the best international success approach every market differently, and therefore, it's absolutely necessary to open local offices in Northern Europe to have a working understanding of the market. Great. So, if you have any questions on vocabulary, please write in the chat. The question we have on the right side is, how are sales in Western Europe? And if you can see, or if you heard me, they are through the roof in Western Europe. And that's a good thing. When your sales are through the roof, they're amazing. They're really high. They're more than what you expected. And why does Stern think it's necessary to open offices in Northern Europe? Why does Lois Stern think it's necessary to open offices in Northern Europe, even though sales are through the roof in Western Europe? Well, as you can see, she says, the companies with the best international success approach every market differently. And that is why, therefore, it's absolutely necessary to open local offices in Northern Europe to have a working understanding of the market. So in order to be successful in a new market, we need to be in that new market so we can observe the trends and how people are buying. We can research the demographic. It's great. You need to be there. If you want to be successful somewhere, you need to be there, right? Continuing. So how does Miss Stern start her speech? I think that's very obvious. She says, before I finish the introduction to the speech, Lucy will sell 5 cars. So that she already states the goal. Lucy will sell 5 cars. But she's going to go into detail later. Find examples in the text for making transitions. So we want to transition from one idea to another idea, or even if these ideas are connecting, or maybe if these ideas are contradicting, we need to have connectives or discourse markers, sometimes they're called. And these help with the flow of your speech. So instead of sounding very short and abrupt and just quickly switching, these words or phrases add flow and make it sound very nice, makes like a smooth transition and not one that's very choppy. Right? So in the text, what are the examples for making transitions? Well, with that being said, we're referencing what was said before. So with that being said, so talking about what I said before or relating to what I said before, so that's what that being said means. It's a great transition. While this may be true, so we're acknowledging what was said before is correct and true, we kind of use it to introduce a contradictory idea. While this may be true, I think something else. So you have an opinion or an idea that is contradictory to what someone else is saying. Even though what they're saying is right, you just don't necessarily agree with it, or you don't like it. So, for example, Italy is the highest country affected with the virus right now. I can say, well, this may be true. I still think Italy is a great country to live in. So what I said before, while this may be true, is in fact correct. I still think it's a great country to live in. So my sentence kind of contradicts what I said before. It's not related, but it's a different attitude. So I'm saying something negative, but what I'm saying after is still positive. So that's something you can use, well, this may be true. Next, but we all know but is for contradiction. We use it all the time. Very simple. And one more, therefore, and therefore. So therefore, you have something very similar in Italian. I think it's a quindi. It talks about we're continuing, it's for results, effect, cause and effect. So this is a cause, something happens, and therefore, because of this cause, this is what needs to happen. So therefore, it's a great connecting. So everything just flows very nicely. So great if you ever do, obviously for presentations or if you're writing an email, it helps you sound really formal and professional. And it shows that you have a certain level of advancedness in English. If you do English examinations, in particular IELTS or Cambridge, knowing these types of transitional phrases is really great. It helps increase your score and it helps show that you have a good understanding of English. So just a tip. Good. Opening your speech. So what are some different ways that you can start a speech to grab the audience's attention? So in a speech or in an essay or in any writing, you want to grab the reader's attention. You want to catch their attention to keep them reading. So if you have a boring or not exciting speech or introduction sentence, maybe they won't want to continue reading. So we need a strong, exciting start. We need a hook, something to catch them, right? So a few ways to do it is a challenging question, or with statistics or surprising elements. So if you ask them a question, you're actively involving them in your speech. So they have to give you your attention. They have to answer your question. Not have to, but they're listening to you. So we have some examples. A challenging question would be the only question there, which is, as competition continues to grow, how can Lucy stay ahead of the pack? So you're asking your audience, and maybe they're not saying it verbally out loud, or maybe they're thinking about it. So that And even that way, they're giving you their attention. Good. Statistics. 1 in every 3 Norwegians say they aren't satisfied with their current car. I think that's interesting. We're showing something, just maybe it's something you didn't know. Like, oh, we're showing statistics. And last surprising element, the market has seen exceptional failure in the last 20 years, but Lucy has always found a way to succeed. Wow, so that is surprising. And it's a really great way because I'm shocked. I'm like, wow, this shows me that Lucy did really well. All right, guys, we have reached our 50-minute mark. Thank you so much for watching, or if you're watching this later, thank you for that. There will be business focuses every day at 12 p.m. and at 7 p.m. So hopefully I will see some of you guys again, and hopefully I'll be able to talk to you guys in the chat next time. But I hope you have a nice week and that you stay safe, stay inside, and hopefully you will use these tips when you do a presentation for your work, from working at home, remotely working. Bye, guys.